your glue.
That's when the cannibalism started.
Last update on the left.
Speaking of my mother, we can start like that. Speaking of my mother, my mom always says she remembers the day that John Lennon got murdered.
Yeah?
Yes, but she said she didn't want to go on the train to go down there to Dakota.
To Strawberry Fields.
Yeah, because she said if she went to Dakota, that's where she went to go get stabbed by a hooker. So she didn't want to go to the absolutely incredible moment in history.
Yeah.
To be a part of the group of people singing Imagine in front of the Dakota.
Yeah.
Because...
Give peace a chance.
No. She wouldn't give peace a chance. She decided that it was too difficult. She decided she was going to be physically assaulted outside of Central Park because it used to be violent.
Well, yeah, of course it used to be violent, but at that moment, I mean, I've seen the pictures of the assassination of John Lennon, like right afterwards. Like there were so many people there, and it was like people were sad. And
all
everything.
they do is grab at me, Henry Thomas. Everywhere I go. There's no way I could go. All the way to the city? I'm not going to the city.
From Queens? From Forest Hills?
From Queens? I'm not going to go to the city. She might have been in the city by that point. I actually don't know. Either way, John Lennon's fucking dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Welcome to Last Update on the Left, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcus Parks here with Henry Zabrowski, going deep into the Queens lore.
Wait a second. Let me practice my Yoko.
It's more of a...
Yeah, you're both. It's more like a.
Maybe
See, I've actually listened to the music.
I would spend an hour listening to the season of Glass.
I listened to the Leno band. I listened to all that, but guess what, man? Either way, she didn't stop jack shit. And she should have been there because guess what? She was obviously told by the CIA that Mark David Chapman was an assassin, that it was also being protected by the doorman.
Mm-hmm, who apparently shot John Lennon in the front. That's what we've been told. We're here on our Mark David Chapman update. Now, our Mark David Chapman series, this is one of those that me and Henry both feel it's an underappreciated series.
I will never not die on that line in the sand because I love those episodes. I thought that the Mark David Chapman's inner life is truly, truly mysterious. So obviously most of this episode is just straight up a commercial for our old episode that you should go listen to because we're definitely going to go
into what the whole show is.
Wait, sort of. But it's Mark David Chapman. There are updates because we really are for a lot of our topics in this series, we are fully updating them. And in this one, we did a pretty thorough job in our original series going deep into the life of Mark David Chapman. But the one thing that we don't do a lot on Last Podcast on the Left as much anymore is give a lot of credence to the various conspiracy theories that are wrapped up. We believe kind of in the Occam's razor of most situations, especially when it comes to humans killing humans.
Yeah.
And at the time, I think did we even really cover the MK Ultra angle? Because we were
Mark David Chapman. I don't think we did not mention it at all.
Because we were more so interested in his inner life, which was so fascinating.
Far more fascinating.
Because that you can be sad in Hawaii?
Lots of people are. There's a whole movie called Descendants about it.
I did not know. I literally didn't know until we did that series. I was like, it's Hawaii.
Yeah. They have a very intense depression rate and suicide rate.
Yeah.
Well, Mark David Chapman's inner world, it was one of those things that started when he was a small child, that he imagined that he was surrounded and commanded these little people, as he called them. And he would play Beatle songs for them. And he would crush them and kill them when they displeased him. And when he did things good for them, they would say, "All hail Mark, king of music."
Mr. Mark, we love you.
Which is fun. I honestly, I wish I had the same. A lot of my little guys argue. Yeah. And most of them, honestly, are pretty anti the content.
Yeah.
Just keep talking about it when we get ready for your insanity plea.
Yeah, that's how you build up. It didn't work for Mark David Chapman. But so, do we have to tell people that Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon on December 8th, 1980, for those of you that don't remember. And the reason why he is fascinating and the reason why the whole world became interested in Mark David Chapman was because, number one, he let himself very easily be arrested by the police. He did not try to escape. There was the weird stuff that was found in his hotel room, like
shrine.
The picture of the Wizard of Oz cast.
It was a picture of Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion.
Yeah, which I don't.
It was all four of them.
I thought it was just the Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion.
There's a picture in that new documentary series that we're not necessarily plugging.
If it was all four of them, then the book that we used got it wrong.
Yeah, it's very, very possible. But this, we watched the new documentary on Apple Plus that's called John Lennon: Murder Without a Trial, which is kind of trying to wrap up. This is kind of where the update idea even came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so also Mark David Chapman, he shot John Lennon from the back. 3 different shots, tight grouping, which is a big people. There's one of those weird red flags for some people about the tight grouping. And then also he stood with the book Catcher in the Rye in his hands, and he was reading chapter 7, which is then becoming like, I guess that is his important one. I believe that is the chapter where Catcher in the Rye, where he said it. He said it like in the book.
Said what?
Like catchers with the one thing where it's like, and then they caught the kids like a catcher in the rye. Like I want to say it's in that
The
chapter.
title line.
Yes.
Yeah, the titular line.
I for one think, it's not all bad that this happened because that was the day I was conceived.
No shit.
Oh, do you think that loosened your mother up? Do you think that when John Lennon was shot, it made her wet enough to have sex with your father?
Did they embrace each other to try to while away?
Ow! Isn't your dad Morty?
Morty?
What's your dad's name?
Jerome.
Oh, Jerry! Oh, Jerry! Make a big one!
Do you think that you have the soul of John Lennon within you?
See.
Oh, Spanish. So
really, with the update, I mean, my biggest update is I know a lot more about Todd Rundgren now than I did then.
we all do.
Because Todd Rundgren, that was actually, that was the big misconception, was that the Beatles were Mark David Chapman's favorite band. His favorite artist was Todd Rundgren. He was a massive Todd Rundgren fan.
He left an 8-track next to the Wizard of Oz picture.
That was part of his shrine. But, I mean, Ed, are you a Todd Rundgren fan?
He's great.
Yeah.
I like Todd Rundgren.
Yeah, I saw that. But, I mean, do you know some of the albums that he's produced? It's fucking...
I don't know his I know he's like a big producer, and I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet.
He was the sound engineer for Stage Fright.
Fuck, that's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah. No, the whole album.
Oh, wow.
The entire... Yeah, that was one of his, first gigs in 1970.
That must have been hard because they were all fucked up. Barely showing up to work.
Yeah, man. No, he spent he had they call it his Bearsville period where he was just up there fucking producing songs.
He looks like if Brian Warner grew up and never became Marilyn Manson. I didn't realize that's what Todd Rundgren looks like.
Yeah, he did 2 Butterfield Blues Band albums.
He has the longest head. Look at his head. Yeah. He looks like Bert.
It's an extraordinarily long head.
Whoa.
Gives Joe Walsh a run for his money.
Yeah.
Joe Walsh, unexpectedly wise.
But Joe Walsh's face, it's starting to get much more squat. He's starting to get that face where his chin and his nose are trying to say hello.
His face is getting longer. Do you remember in Drop Dead Fred when the guy gets squashed for what's his name and his head's real long and flat? That's what Joe Walsh is beginning to look like.
I mean, Todd Rundgren's one of his biggest ones is New York. He did the New York Dolls debut album.
Oh my god!
He did "We're an American Band" by Grand Funk.
He did a lot of stuff.
All the best shit.
Yes, this is not a fully Todd Rundgren-based episode.
But the last thing, what else are we going to talk about?
There's a lot of stuff here.
John Lennon's still dead. I got
But the last thing but the reason why Todd Rundgren is now, he actually does own a massive estate in Hawaii. Todd Rundgren is incredibly wealthy because he was the guy who produced Bat Out of Hell. And he got points on Bat Out of Hell, which is one of the best-selling albums of all time. So Todd Rundgren is like incredibly wealthy.
Still alive, not assassinated by a psychotic assassin, though.
No, in fact, in a weird little coincidence, he is part of Ringo's band.
Oh, whoa, weird.
Yeah.
And Ringo was John Lennon's favorite Beatle.
And the first Beatle to show up.
Yeah, well, it's because he was the only one that liked him, because he was just happy being there. He was just happy, having a bit of a good old time.
Yeah, what did McCartney say? He was like, bit of a bummer.
He was very upset. Yeah, they had gotten into a fight. It was a long thing. But so more with Mark David Chapman was that after the trial. So like, let's cut after he's shot John Lennon. Everybody is torn asunder, obviously. Everybody's gone. Everyone's freaking out. They figured that Mark David Chapman was going to immediately get assassinated in New York. That's like one of the weird things that adds to the conspiracy theory fuel. One was that there were a double was set up that would walk in and out of the hospital. That wasn't Mark David Chapman, that they did to protect Mark David Chapman so they could get him to trial. So there was like a weird double, and there was a lot of being like, there's multiple Mark David Chapmans. That's like one fun theory.
Well, I mean, there's also, it could have been very likely that someone could have killed Mark David Chapman, like Jack Ruby style.
Very much so.
At the time, like John Lennon was like he was a very loved New York character at that point. Like everyone, like they'd say like, yo, John, hey. Like,
and he'd be like, hello.
People are just always waiting for him outside of his apartment.
Yeah, they'd be waiting. And
no, he's the one that's down there.
He's
John Lennon's the deep one.
No, he's down here.
He's down there.
Down there.
And but Paul McCartney's up here. John Lennon's down there.
And where's Ringo?
Oh, all right, it's me, Octopus's Garden.
And finally, give me your best Harrison.
George Harrison. Well, he had the thin recently. It's like, well, look, tall, gently wipes.
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's actually, the whole thing was very impressive.
Hey, thank you. Back to the non-information.
But yeah, John Lennon was very well loved because that's why he loved New York City, because he could just kind of hang out and no one would really fuck with him. And what I actually learned recently is that John Lennon was at this time really starting to turn shit around because he very much had the reputation, and I kind of bought into this as well, like as he was a bad dude for a long time.
He was an asshole.
He was a huge asshole, but at this time, he was starting to make amends for a lot of the bad behavior.
He was starting to become un-asshole.
Yes.
During this time period.
His son, Sean, helped a lot.
Yeah.
According to him. But also, he didn't get to the end of the process, which is sad because he didn't get to fully absolve himself and change. He had walked away from show business for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So he was basically in total isolation. The story was that John Lennon was trying to sort of become a person again, which it sounds like he was getting towards. He had this beautiful relationship with his new producer. Him and Yoko were banging on pots and pans together. You've got his new son who he was desperately in love with, even though he kind of like left the other one. The other one's fine. The other one was
starting to bring him back in.
Yeah, he was trying to work it out. He was trying to say I'm sorry. And then when he got shot, so obviously he died very quickly, but this is also where it gets weird, is that so Mark David Chapman allowed himself to be immediately arrested. The whole city's is torn apart. The thing is that the first words out of Mark David Chapman was, I can't believe that it wasn't real, because he had this concept in his head. According to the first people speaking to him, Mark David Chapman said that I was convinced that when I shot John Lennon, I would magically transform into Holden Caulfield, who is the lead, who's the protagonist of Catcher in the Rye, who's the child who says that everybody's phonies. And it's the book too, which is also cool because it changes as you get older. The more you read that book, the more it goes from when you're a kid, you read it, you think that Holden Caulfield's a hero. And then when you read it later on, you kind of realize Holden Caulfield's a young shithead.
Yeah.
But that's you're supposed to start a young shithead. That's where you're supposed to come from.
I missed the window. Like I didn't read Catcher in the Rye when I was in high school. I missed the window to read it back then.
I read it in college. By then I was all Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah. I read it in college as well, and I was just like, I hate this kid.
Well, I got to love the rest of the books. The rest of the family that's not in the so J.D.
Franny
Salinger
and Zoe and all that.
Yeah, I loved Franny and Zoe. That is one of my favorite books ever. The other series about the family is good. They're all great, but and then J.D. Salinger's a weird guy.
Yeah, JD, and also I think like a year later, maybe I think it was less than a year later, Catcher in the Rye was also found with John Hinckley Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was at the vigil
Yes.
for John Lennon.
And he is still obviously one of the more famous victims of cancel culture.
Yeah.
Because they won't allow him to do shows. I don't know why.
Everlasting Quest, I think, is a good song.
And John Hinckley got the full. They allowed him out, which is a part of the reason why they think that Mark David Chapman's shit is a little fishy. So they were trying to make him be crazy. Everyone was trying to say Mark David Chapman is crazy. Why?
Because he was crazy.
Yeah, very, very much so. Completely batshit insane.
He also said he thought he was going to turn into John Lennon after he killed him.
That was the
I'm gonna
second
go kill
round.
Yourself.
That was the second
Myself,
round.
yeah.
I said, I went to go kill myself. I'm going to go kill this version of John Lennon, this thing that is me, right? He was projecting himself onto John Lennon.
And then he also said that he expected himself to disappear into the ink of the book. He said he changed the story so many fucking times.
Well, he was in. Well.
No.
And so for a while, he was trying to, I think, they were, and his defense were like, this guy's crazy. So they were trying to get a lot of people coming in. One of them, again, now, this is the next thing that brings in the conspiracy theory edge that we didn't talk about in the first series was during this time period when they were trying to figure out whether or not he was insane or trying to basically prove that he was insane. There was a man by the name of Dr. Milton Klein that got involved during this process.
This shit's bizarre as hell.
Dr. Milton Klein, which there is almost no internet footprint for, because he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. He doesn't have any stuff. He is not famous, but he is considered to be this hypnosis expert. For a long time, he was arguing against hypnosis about how powerful it was. He said that he worked as a consultant with, which we now know, the real program MK Ultra. He also believed that he said he hypnotized Sirhan, that he would climb around the room like a monkey. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And he went in to go talk to Mark David Chapman. Now, all this happens. They're prepping for this big trial. Dr. fucking Milton Klein comes in. Some yada, yada, yada. They show up expecting for this trial to fucking be the trial of the century. Mark David Chapman pleads guilty. We hear nothing. We hear nothing ever again.
To a closed courtroom.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he was originally going to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but had said that God told him in his jail cell to plead guilty.
Which means he's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or he was
that's the actual catch-22.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because also, what I hear a lot is that, yeah, sure, you might not go to prison, but will go to a mental institution for on the other end, like a jail mental institution, which is apparently not cool. Yeah. Apparently it's not nice in there.
Where would you rather be?
Oh, definitely mental asylum.
Yeah.
Only just because then I could get, but do you think you get more stuff in a mental asylum or in prison? Do you think in prison you get stuff to write with and stuff like more?
You mean something like a prison for the criminally insane?
Yeah.
I think you get far, far less.
Right?
Like, I think you get a lot of, everything is a blunted object.
Yeah.
You're not going to be interacting. The people you're going to be interacting with are going to be very dangerous and very, unpredictable all the time.
And it's gonna be hard to make friends in that environment.
The
Yeah, it really
cartoons
is.
are better.
The cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
The criminally insane, but no football.
No football,
But sometimes basketball.
But Mark David Chapman, I was trying to think what else is really points towards it. So that was like one of the big things where they were like, so this is where we're bringing some of the conspiracy and stuff. Because I received back in the day, I have a fun wall printout that is all of the various things talking about why Mark David Chapman was a remote controlled assassin trained by MK Ultra, but he wasn't trained to be the assassin.
He was trained to be the patsy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like that's the idea, is that somehow, somewhere, Mark David Chapman ran afoul of the CIA, and that the CIA had programmed him to just go to this. He had to go to this spot and to pull the trigger, or to. I get a little fuzzy on the details, because he had the gun and he pulled the trigger.
A lot of it's made up. A lot of it's made up. They say that apparently it was that he never fired the gun at all.
Yeah.
So the full conspiracy theory view is that John Lennon, which is the fun little thing that makes conspiracy theories hold together, was that John Lennon did have a file on him.
No, he had none.
A big one.
Not just a file. I mean, people followed him and Yoko constantly.
Was it COINTELPRO? Isn't that what that was called?
COINTELPRO, yeah.
And so, like, again, another real thing that was they during this time period, Nixon was extremely paranoid about the cultural quote unquote war that was going on. He felt that John Lennon was destabilizing the United States of America. They went and looked at. They basically just tracked him. They were just like, and so they had a big, thick fucking file on him. So there was like. Much like with JFK, people point towards, well, that's like the first step that shows they had a motive.
They got a file on anyone who makes statements that we should have peace.
They were afraid, exactly.
They didn't like it.
They were afraid that John Lennon, that was coming back after a 5-year absence, was about to change everything because Ronald Reagan was running for president. This is another thing that kind of chimes all this stuff together, too.
Well, he had already won by this point.
Yeah.
Didn't he already? Because it's
He'd
like.
won. It's 1981.
But
He'd won 2 years before.
No, this is 80.
80, but it's
Or
December.
he won the year before.
But yes, he's the incumbent. He just won.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
still, he's the guy that would be the most, quote unquote, detrimental to a Reagan presidency. That's like what the theory was that they were using.
I can agree with that.
He was going to fuck the presidency. And so what they did was they had a trained assassin that was more likely than not. And this is proof. And not just because it comes to wikispooks.com. It's that it is a man by the name of Jose Perdomo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jose Perdomo, he was one of the doormen at the Dakota who was in front of John Lennon, staring him wide. He was one of the big eyewitnesses of the murder. And this is not just people saying this on the internet because we can't know for certain, but we know for certain because it's said on the internet that he was a member of Operation 40, which was the secret CIA Cuban assassination team that was going to be used to kill Fidel Castro. And so this is a trained, not fake, this is a trained MK Ultra assassin that is now a doorman at a very fancy New York apartment complex.
In the Union.
So Mark David Chapman is the hypnotized patsy. He has received all of these various things. He's been hypnotized to leave these super suspicious things behind. I guess there are some people also within the MK Ultras, I guess, that did not like Todd Rundgren.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Todd Rundgren, that's the weird thing about it, is that there's so many of these weird things that don't make any sense, like how he went to New York once, but then, like, it's proven that he went to New
Scouting
York.
trip sent by MK Ultra.
But why does he need to scout if he's programmed?
Scouting to see if the thoughts in his brain work that were made up. So you got to go and put him in the New York one time and be like, well, let's just see if he runs into traffic. And then if he does it, like, you know, because you train him and then we're like, oh, this will be Mark David's day out.
Yeah.
He'll go and have fun in New York in the big city and we'll lightly see what he does. And so, yeah, he does a bunch of weird stuff in New York for a while.
Yeah, he goes and sees, like, he has a fucking fantastic weekend. He goes and sees David Bowie perform The Elephant Man.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he goes and sees another show the next night. He goes and sees, like, George C. Scott perform.
If none of this, like, makes you understand that New York's beautiful and you shouldn't kill, you should act, nothing will.
Or you should just go.
Just go love.
It's a
Just go
magical
love.
place. Yeah. You know, maybe not anymore, but back then, absolute fucking stardust everywhere.
Yeah, you know, they're barely murdering people like they were back then.
Yeah, he just don't do it quite as much.
Yeah, it's definitely down from, you know, the 2,000 that it was around this time, 2,000 per year.
Yeah.
I think they're back down to like 1 a day, maybe 2 a day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's a different city. Definitely. But
Yeah.
back then, yeah, Mark David Chapman went a couple times. Like, and then he decided, I think it was after he went, have you ever seen Ordinary People?
Yes.
Yeah, he went and saw Ordinary People.
That's
a sad weekend.
movie.
Yeah, it's really sad.
I get it now.
Remember that whole thing? Because that whole line of like, I looked into the abyss and I saw him staring back. Was that no? That's Nietzsche.
Yeah, it's Nietzsche. Yeah.
What did the guy say? He was sad.
What did Timothy Hutton say? Because he was so moved by Timothy Hutton's performance that he decided I shouldn't kill John Lennon.
Really?
Yeah.
But he didn't
still
do it.
did it.
Yeah,
well,
he came
that
back.
was the first trip. Is that he went for the first trip, and he went and saw Bowie, and he said that's the fucking thing is he's sitting there watching Bowie play the Elephant Man, and all he can think of is like, man, I could really pull out my gun and kill David Bowie right now. No one can do anything about it because he had a fucking 38 special on him. And so he goes and sees this, and then he goes to a screening of Ordinary People, and he comes out and he decides like, I love my wife. I don't want to kill John Lennon. I shouldn't kill John Lennon. I should go home to my wife. So he calls up his wife and says, hey, honey, I was going to kill John Lennon. I'm not. I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm coming home.
So crazy because the woman is like, the mom is like the villain of that movie.
But no, he calls up his wife, like, I'm going to go. And then he goes, but he says that there was a voice that he called the child that told him that he had to go do it because it's not uncommon for killers to blame their crimes on some other worldly presence.
Yes.
Ted Bundy had the same thing. He called it the entity. The entity made him do it. It wasn't him that actually killed and raped and murdered these, it was the entity. And Mark David Chapman said the same thing. The child told me to do it, that John Lennon was a toy that he once had that was broken, and now he was angry and he needed to destroy his toy because John Lennon had become a phony because he read this book. It was all sorts of like convoluted mess. But then, long story short, he goes back. And do you know the fucking Rosemary's Baby story?
No.
This one's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, like this is the most incredible coincidence, I think, in all of true crime. This is fucking nuts. So it's the day before the assassination. And the Dakotas where they film Rosemary's Baby.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark David Chapman is sitting like across the street from Dakota, on one of those benches bordering Central Park. And he's looking at it and he's thinking about, Roman Polanski directed Rosemary's Baby. And, Roman Polanski is married to Sharon Tate. And Sharon Tate was murdered by the Manson family. And as far as Mark David Chapman knew, the Manson family murdered Sharon Tate because of Helter Skelter, which was, of course, done by the Beatles. And as he's thinking about all this and thinking about all the connections, fucking Mia Farrow walks right on by.
Yeah, it doesn't help when
And-
you're in where all the stars are.
Yeah, Mia Farrow walks by and he says at that moment he saw it. He said it was a sign. He said that was the sign that I was doing the right thing, that I was on the right track.
She probably lived 2 doors down.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, or it was just a woman with a pixie cut.
Yes.
Like it really it very well could have been a woman with just a short haircut.
I saw Yoko Ono in the street before, and she was very unmistakably Yoko Ono.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's interesting because now, so after all of these years, because like they're really been trying to figure out like why. Everyone wants to know why.
Well, he changes the story
Yeah.
over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
Like it's I think he's almost to the point where he's saying like I did it for attention.
That was the big breakthrough apparently, is that was in 2022.
Yes.
Which is apparently when he got that was like the last time. So I guess, he was in 2024 of this year.
Mm-hmm.
He was already, he had one last parole where they denied, but the closest he got to being let go was in 2022, where they basically said, I wanted the fame. I wanted somebody, and he wanted to be a somebody, and nothing was going to stop that. I actually also wonder if he just is trying to tell them whatever the fuck it is they want to hear at any point.
Yeah, try a new tactic at some point.
Well, he started with the Lord, and then it turned into. Then he tried to admit that it was premeditated, and then it's like each time it's getting a little bit more detailed. And Yoko goes each time to make sure that he doesn't have an opportunity to be paroled. But it's weird because in the Patsy idea is that yes, he goes and changes all this other stuff. I'll never quite understand the idea of a patsy, only just because the idea of like I feel like a patsy is like easy versus an assassin.
Yeah, Patsy is easy.
Well, it's like finding a patsy. I feel like he doesn't need to be hypnotized to be a patsy.
Well, I think you can't exactly ask around. We're looking for someone to take the rap for John Lennon's murder. What do you think?
You start with interns. You call it interns. But I wonder, I feel like you could kind of, if you wanted to actually if you were shooting from the government, you want to kill somebody, and you wanted to then frame it on somebody else, you could elaborately set up their home.
Sure.
You literally could take the gun that the guy you trained to kill the guy, he could take that gun and just he hands it to his connect, who gives it to the guy who breaks into the Patsy's apartment, who puts all the weapons there. You know, like you put the guy there where he needs to be, and then you basically blame it all on him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that difficult, but the idea is that Mark David Chapman was hypnotized to be arrested. That's the idea, is that he was to take it and then go and act super crazy, essentially. And that his brain was specifically scrambled by MK Ultra training, which is what made him crazy. But now, as we're seeing, I feel like as the years go by, my feelings will always be, these guys all talk on their deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the living fuck would we not have the guy that trained Mark David Chapman come forward?
Well, why wouldn't Mark David Chapman at this point
just
come out
blame
and
the
say,
government? Here's all of this stuff to blame the government that this happened to me, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, unless he's, being threatened, like, we'll kill your wife, because his wife is still with him. Like,
oh, really?
After he was sentenced, like, she moved from Hawaii to upstate New York. He's in Attica.
Oh my God.
And so she lives there. They actually get to spend 44 hours a year together.
Oh,
yeah, they
it's
share.
not even an hour in a week.
I know. Yeah, it's not a lot
You
of
could
time.
just fly in for that. Live in Hawaii. It's upstate New York. It's freezing.
I guess the problem is there ain't no fucking dick like that Mark David Chapman dick. And she's straight up addicted to it. She missed getting fucking full on gaped by that guy.
No, you remember he doesn't like having sex because he says vaginas scare him because he says that he's scared that he will be enveloped by their warm wetness, that he's just going to fall into it.
You don't think that don't make a Gloria happy?
Warm wetness is like why I do it.
Yeah, but most people do it.
But I think he's afraid it's going to go, and then you go, whoa! And then all of a sudden you're in Barbie. You're like in that world and you don't know how you got there. I feel like, or if you get sucked through the portal inside of a vagina, do you think it's more you go to like a Ruth Bader Ginsburg world where it's just like women voting and writing books?
I don't think every vagina goes to the same place.
I don't know.
I think there are many portals through many vaginas to many places.
Where do you think Carolina's vagina portal takes you?
Oh, wow. Sleater Kinney concert.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's really fun. Or maybe a Bikini Kill concert. A concert of some sort involving women. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
Probably Bikini Kill, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Bratwurst Festival for me.
Julie's going to be mad. Julie's going to be extremely mad saying like, oh, my vagina portal brings you to a sausage festival?
We are not getting serious. I don't have to worry about it.
It is serious.
This is the show I get to say all the things.
This is dead serious. This is dead fucking serious. Mine is a twisted carnival. And Kiss is there.
Well, him and his wife, Mark David Chapman, they like making homemade pizzas together. They watch Wheel of
You mean
Fortune
prison-made
together.
pizza. And they're watching Prison Wheel of Fortune.
What's Prison Wheel of Fortune?
Oh, man, it's just always like, don't buy a vowel. Because
it's always an A.
You don't want to know what you owe when you buy that vowel.
You know what was the weirdest thing about Gloria is like when she was interviewed, which I still have no idea why she did this, but when she was interviewed, she's like, I'm sad that he had to die.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
well, people point that towards being super mysterious too.
I just think she just didn't understand how to talk properly.
No, I don't think that she was used to television. Her lawyer was a moron. That whole concept of like, we'll get all the press in one room and then they can ask every question that they thought of you. And then just like this woman who's never had any sort of media training, whose husband's a total psychopath who killed one of the most famous people on the face of the planet. She wasn't ready.
No. She, they said that they speak about John Lennon together. They pray for Yoko, that Yoko finds Jesus. Yeah.
Whatever. Also, I find it, there was one other weird connection that I could not find any actual exact information on.
Okay.
Because no one would tell me. And I looked it up on the internet. I couldn't find the exact thing. Talking about connecting Mark David Chapman back to MK Ultra, which is this idea that he had a pastor. I want someone to reach out to me. sidestorieslpotl@gmail.com. I tried to look for the name of this pastor that said that when he was in Georgia, that Mark David Chapman was in this with a pastor that was connected to Nixon. And all of this puts him back into why he was even chosen, that he was groomed as a little boy, that they saw that he had, because one of the big indicators that they use for MK Ultra, apparently, which again is all, I don't know what's real and what's the conspiracy end, which is the idea of using kids with schizophrenia as a great way to train them.
Yeah.
That's a good one to train to be an assassin.
Well, Mark David Chapman, if you follow the MK Ultra storyline, I mean, he would have actually been a very good agent, because Mark David Chapman, when he was a kid, he was what they called a garbage head back then, where he loved doing, like, he would sniff glue, and then he would do a bunch of acid,
That's right.
and, like, do like 8 hits of acid at a time, you know, and then eventually, like, after a guy, like a hippie stole his wallet at the beach, he became disillusioned in the hippie movement, and so he turned into like a Jesus freak, as they called it back then. And so if that pastor did find him, I mean, Mark David Chapman showed signs of schizophrenia. That's the thing, but you're always going back towards, like, what is Mark David Chapman telling me? You know, what is Mark David Chapman saying? At what point in his life is he saying all this shit? And what does he want out of it? Because it very well could be that Mark David Chapman is just a murderous, narcissistic shithead. He very well could, I mean, at the end of the day, it could just be a narcissist with a fantastic imagination.
Yeah, and trying to desperately get off on what he thought was going to be easier. I think at some point he thought that the going to jail, going to the mental asylum and being guilty by reason of insanity was going to be easier. So he thought, oh, okay, I'll just act crazy. I'll build a case for acting crazy after just wanting to be famous for killing John Lennon. And then essentially you hear, like, what we were talking about, where it's like, no, you're going to go into a mental asylum for the criminally insane, in which you are going to be slobbering on Thorazine for the rest of your life.
You're tied to a bed forever.
You're not going anywhere. And so even I think prison got to look good. I think he was like, all right, get my dick sucked and stuff. Like, I can get in there and do a lot of stuff. I can make wine.
And then he continued the act for many years. Like, you remember the episode where he was acting up, and the orderly came in the room with the needle. He's like, yeah, break the needle off in my ass.
Break the needle off my ass.
Put it in my ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love that guy. Love that guy. Let him out.
But he kept it up for years and years, and then he just eventually, I think its usefulness, I think it kind of got old. And I think he might have done it just to amuse himself.
He very much
just
so.
to kind of keep the story going, and to keep, like, the Mark David Chapman, like, to keep himself relevant. Because if he just goes into prison and is just quiet, then, you know, nobody's talking about Mark David Chapman anymore. But if he's crazy and he acts crazy, then
much easier.
People will, you know, keep the legend of Mark David Chapman going.
I'm surprised he didn't try to put out an album like Manson did.
Well, he wasn't a musician.
His first girlfriend said he was a very talented guitar player.
Well, he never wrote songs of his own, as far as I know.
Yeah, he played Beatles songs.
Yeah.
Yes.
He would charge little kids in his neighborhood, like, money to watch him lip sync to Beatles songs.
Whoa. Like Jinx Malone. That would be incredible. But
I would love to see Mark David Chapman lip sync for his life.
He
can
would
you
get
imagine?
destroyed.
Can you imagine a lip sync battle between Mark David Chapman and John Hinckley?
Oh, God, let's do it. Oh, but they have to do Imagine. Which is going to be very, very difficult for people watching. I also, you know, he could also, you look at all of it, and then the simplest explanation too is that he was just absolutely batshit insane.
That could be.
He could very well be entirely insane, and then just
Don't you have to be a little bit insane to do it?
You know, I don't know.
No, that's the old argument. Is
Mostly
you got to be kind of crazy to do it, but really, it's the whole thing is whether you know the difference between right and wrong, and he knew that killing John Lennon was wrong.
Yeah, and it was definitely premeditated.
Oh,
Yes.
God,
he had to go down to Georgia to get the bullets. He had the whole shrine and shit.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. No,
He
it was
had a
very
long
much.
plan.
He did made 2 trips to do it. You know, he had the whole thing of, like, wouldn't it be something if I killed John Lennon?
The thing about crazy is that a lot of times it becomes criminality comes around when it's also paired with being kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, is that I feel like crime is more about impulse control and how you react to your own emotions, and a lot of times, unfortunately, in people that kind of have lower intellectual abilities, they have less impulse control. Most of the time, I think that the intelligence is obviously there's both, but it's more like understanding what you're doing when you're doing it.
Yeah, it's the theory going around that, the reason why the world has gotten just progressively weirder and worse since 2020 is because so many people came out of COVID with permanent brain fog. And since they have permanent brain fog, people have a lot less impulse control. So it's just people are just generally worse.
I also think that they were a little bit in this. Obviously, it's completely off the topic of the episode, but I think we're a little bit in caught in a fake virtual matrix, where people also sort of believe that the internet is real, and so they are driven insane by that.
Yeah, they're not. It's a.
Can you imagine if he had I feel like we're lucky that this was back in the day when he had to go shoot sadly, he had to go shoot an icon to get famous. Yeah. Where I feel like in this modern time period, Mark David Chapman would have just shot up a school, shot up a public space.
That's that shows the difference. Back then, you had to read a full book to get crazy. Now it's just a meme,
and that's another thing that makes the Zoomers fucking lazy is that they're not putting the work into their assassinations. I want to see a reading list. I want to see actions taken. Oh, you're going to kill me over Zoom? I don't think so. You're going to want to get out there and put your feet to the goddamn cement. All right? Paper resumes.
Here's an interesting new wrinkle to the story. It's new. It's not new, but it's something that I discovered since we recorded the episode. Is apparently, I don't know if James Taylor's just trying to get in on the story, but in 2015 he went on Stern and said that he encountered Mark David Chapman the day before the murder.
What?
He said, Chapman pinned me to the wall, glistening with maniacal sweat, and tried to talk in some freak speech about what he was going to do and stuff about how John was interested and how he was going to get in touch with John Lennon. It was surreal to have contact with the guy 24 hours before he shot John. But
why didn't he do anything?
Because he was on a lot of methadone at this point in the early 80s. Yeah, he's trying to get off heroin.
He was a big motherfucker, though. James Taylor. He seems like he's kind of jacked.
I always find it strange when those guys that play light acoustic guitar are super deep into heroin.
Yeah.
Because it's always I seen fire, I seen rain. But I know that song's about finding a woman with a blood coming out of her nose and shit her pussy and she was fucking dead and shit. But it's this night. It's a song you hear at Joanne's.
Yeah.
Is that what it's about?
It's
I thought it was about his girlfriend that died in a plane crash.
Yeah, it was about his girlfriend that died in a plane crash. It's not about a woman being found with feces in her pussy and she's dead.
Yeah, flying machines in pieces on the ground.
That's what that song's about.
Fire and Rain.
Oh.
What are you thinking of?
Oh, I was thinking of the other movie. Oh, he's a great song called Oh, that's what it is. I mixed it up with She Shit Her Pussy. I Found Her There.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen that's one of my favorite James Taylor songs. Yeah. She shit her pussy. I found her there.
Carole King actually wrote it.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense because of its understanding of women. Yes, I love that song. But why did he do anything to stop him, dog?
Well, this is one last interesting factoid about Mark David Chapman is that when he returned to New York for the second time, he got into a cab with this guy named Mark Snyder, and he told Snyder, quote, I'm a producer from the Rolling Stones. I just got back from a recording session with the Beatles. They just got back together. And then when Snyder asked, hey, do you remember any of the new songs? Just Mark David Chapman just got angry and said, forget it.
It's all scat. It's a scat album.
And I saw her standing with the man.
Oh, shit, James Taylor, pull over. Oh,
my God, you want heroin, you Holden?
Really and then when stuff. The cab driver dropped him off, he said, my name is Mark David Chapman. You will remember my name.
Hey, that sounds like most of the people I imagine who have to drive Uber in L.A. and have to deal with Los Angeles in general.
Yeah, you will remember my name.
My name's Trayton Montgomery the 7th. You will remember my name.
Now, I'm sure you guys have covered this on the show in the past, but I just got to know, for my own personal knowledge, why do we always get the middle name of the assassin?
You know what? No one's ever been able to figure that one out.
It's one of those.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't get. Well, they say it's always the assassins that
Yeah,
are.
Hinckley didn't finish the job.
Hinckley didn't finish the job.
Yeah.
But you get John Wilkes Booth. You know what? I found out a really interesting factoid about John Wilkes Booth the other day. Is that John Wilkes Booth and his brother, they were both like really famous actors.
Yeah.
And they raised money for a statue of Shakespeare that is still in Central Park to this day. You know what play they performed? Julius Caesar.
Whoa, wild stuff.
Lincoln's secretary. His name's Kennedy. Did you see this?
Yeah, have you heard
Kennedy's secretary was named Lincoln.
And do you know that Kennedy was killed from a warehouse, and the man went to the theater, and Lincoln was killed in a theater, and the man went to hid in a warehouse.
I'm gonna come. Oh fuck, I'm gonna come. Just fucking thinking about it. So in the end, we were gonna update Mark David Chapman. And we had our intrepid researchers research, and we went and researched, and we found out a lot of the stuff that we were gonna update you on is fake.
Yeah. But we're just sort of on a track right now.
Oh yeah.
And we just kind of have to keep going on this train.
But I do
no matter
love-
what towns it stops in.
I knew that we weren't gonna find definitive evidence.
What is some of the fake shit?
Most of the things that we've said,
Except
except for the facts about
for all,
Mark
like,
David Chapman.
and the Todd Rundgren stuff. That's all
Yeah.
real. He definitely was a sound engineer for Stage Fright.
He knows that for certain. But the stuff about Operation 40, I don't know, and the stuff about the hypnotist, we don't know. Stuff about the Patsy stuff, we don't know. We don't know if the doorman was trained by CIA. I'm not sure.
From the documentary, first of all, it said Murder Without a Trial. The third episode's called The Trial, so I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I am going to just say, again, we're not paid by these people. It was a lot of padding.
Yeah.
Right?
I got a little upset for a second.
Am I not right? Am I not correct?
A lot of these documentaries, like
It was a lot of padding.
Maybe we'll talk about this further in another episode, but a lot of these true crime documentaries these days, the 3-4 part, motherfuckers cut it down to 2.
Because
cut it down to what? Cut it down to 2.
There's most of us now in the year 2024. Just imagine Netflix, when you're making a documentary, imagine 75% of your audience has a podcast that has done an episode on this serial killer.
Yeah.
So just know that before you make another documentary, because we know the story. Like, we didn't need an hour. Like, maybe this is just straight bitching, but I don't know if we needed the hour explaining who John Lennon was, who Mark David Chapman was. What was that? Because it's like, would I be here? Would I be at this juncture watching a new show about Mark David Chapman, trying to learn new information about Mark David Chapman if I didn't know who the fucking Beatles were? Because that would be really fucking stupid. What am I doing? I mean, just living my life, going on Wikipedia on the letter M, just seeing what comes up. So, yeah.
So check us out at patreon.com/lastpodcast on the left.
That's where you see us do fucking shit.
Yeah. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok.
Go to twitch.tv/LPNTV to see our Twitch content.
Mm-hmm. And check us out lastpodcastontheleft.com to go see us live all over North America. And I believe by this point we'll have announced our UK and Iceland shows.
We better have.
And all of our shows in Australia in August.
Yes,
So
go to
if you live
lastpodcastontheleft.com.
If you live in any of those places, go check it out.
I love that about us.
I love that about all of us. And every single one are we and that.
Yeah.
Hail Satan.
Okay.
Hail Rundgren.
Hail Todd. Go home and listen to Fearless. That'll be great.
Don't go to Central Park. You'll get stabbed by a hooker.
It's a lot nicer these days.
Yeah, I know. We know.
The light.
Actually, it's going back.
Which
is kinda nice. We've been alive so long, we're watching New York get bad again. Isn't that nice?
God is a concept in which we measure our pain.
Whoa.
Wow.
Fuck yeah.
John Lennon.
Nice.
Wow. Yoko Ono. Thank you for enjoying The Last Update on the Left. You can find other shows that you'll enjoy from the Last Podcast Network on lastpodcastontheleft.com. See you there.